because see when you're watching the games and you're like, oh, look at the table, that's me, we're in this, they're down here, and by the end of it, you're looking at it going,
I can do simple math.
I wish we had stopped right there and then.
Reducing one or two or 3 points. I can do that in my head.
Of course, most people can do that. Most people that are educated to at least a high school level would. I would imagine even primary school level would be able to do that, Kel. But
we've got to give the graphics guys something to do, though.
Welcome back to Watch More Football, everyone. As always, you're watching us on the Genreverse Sports YouTube channel. It would be really good if you could leave us a like and a subscribe if you enjoy what you see today, because it would help us to grow the channel. While you're on this YouTube channel, you may want to check out our sister channel. We're part of the Genreverse YouTube channel family, if you like. You'll find loads of entertainment news, reactions, geek content on there, and you will find similar content to that on our website, which is lrmonline.com. So please feel free to check that out. You'll find stories, trailers, reviews. I'm reviewing Severance season 2 at the moment, but there's loads of other ones coming up that I will be doing as well. Anyway, on to the Premier League. I don't know, strange weekend, shall we say, of football, in terms of we've been having a lot of kind of strange results at the moment. But as always, we will start off with how the predictions are going. So Ryan, if you want to talk us through how things are standing at this point.
So the standings at the minute, obviously we missed last week, but it was a really strong showing from Dave for the last 2 weeks. He scored 12 one week, 6 the next, which has left him on 18. Mick and Cam both on 11, and then Kyle has gained a little bit of ground on me. He is well within touching distance now, is I think the big story. Dave is very much the Liverpool of the set. He's serenely going about his business, and everybody else is falling away. Whereas I'm faltering quite a bit, and I'm in danger of finishing bottom, I think.
I think I'm Newcastle in terms of my consistency levels just dropped off, and as that does, I plummet down the table.
I'll tell you, you are very Newcastle. I'll tell you exactly what your scores were, what the split was. Give me a second. It's in a different document. So you scored 3 the first week, and then you scored 8 the second week, which just about sums it up.
There you go.
Yeah. So not ideal, no. But Dave is.
I can still catch him. You might have
I think Dave's admitted to it. It's a bit like when Kyle stole the marching at the end of last season. He just hasn't been paying attention to any football. Just putting random numbers in, and away he's gone. Because it has been. It has been one of those seasons. I've been saying for ages that the mid-table is so strong at the minute. Anyone. I know it's a cliche you get from the Premier League, but anyone between third and 13th can beat each other. It's ridiculous. So
and I would actually, after this week, and given the kind of injuries that they went through, I wonder if I would say Arsenal slip into the rest of the crowd, and Liverpool's pulling further ahead on their own, rather than anything else. And at the same time, the relegation candidates are moving further down the other side, so it is becoming this bunched up table of everybody else in the middle. It's a bit crazy, to be fair. We shall hope that I can pull off the victory in the end, but if not, good for Dave. We'll see what happens. In terms of particular kind of results from the weekend, I think the obvious couple to look at are the ones that we're probably going to talk about anyway, but we'll start off with our team of the week, which Ryan and I took a long time to really discuss this week and branch it out, debate it back and forth with each other.
I struggled because I was out all day Sunday. I left at crack of dawn Sunday, which is my normal match of the day watching time, and then didn't catch any of the football that happened on Sunday, so I only watched the end of match of the day 2 about half an hour before my dinner tonight. So it's been a struggle, but I think we've got some good names, and then we've got some worthy fillers as well. So we'll go through it. So we've got 4 Liverpool players in this team. I think that's worthwhile because they beat Man City at City 2-0 without breaking a sweat, basically, and they were that disinterested in City as an opposition that they couldn't even be bothered to batter them. So I think that level of just professional job done, away we go, just another game against their main rivals over the last 10 years has got to count for something. So we've got Alisson in goal for them, and Van Dijk and Konate. Now 3 defenders. I can't say that they had a lot to do, but I think we quite often fall into the trap of
Man City didn't have anything going for. Says a lot about how Liverpool defended.
Yeah,
still do have good attackers. Most of Man City's issues are actually going the other way.
Yeah, but I do think we fall into the trap quite often on Team of the Week, where if a team hasn't had many chances, we don't give enough credit to the opposition defenders who actually sort of stop things before the chances even start. And I think that's what happened with Liverpool. So obviously, Konate is having a hell of a season. Anyway, Van Dijk was good next to him as well. Fullbacks. So we've got Munoz for Crystal Palace. I don't know what his first name is. It might be Rodrigo Munoz.
I don't know actually.
No, I do normally look these up. It's not Frankie Munoz. But he does a very good job at right wing back for Palace, and he scored an absolute belter of a goal as well against, was it
Daniel
Munoz. Okay.
Daniel Munoz.
Yeah. But yeah, it was a really good finish where he was at the near post, the keeper's covering the angles, and he just decides to absolutely twat it into the roof of the net, give him no chance. It was a nice one. And
yeah, it's fair.
Fulham have got good wide plays, especially down the left where they've got Robinson, and he kept them quiet all game. So fair play to him. Do you want to talk about Lewis Hall for a bit?
Yeah, I mean, just a little bit. I'll talk about Newcastle in a little bit of segment, not too much, but I thought Hall was overall our best player. It was a strange game, which I'll get into, a game of 2 halves, the old cliche, but I guess the only player that was really magnificent in both halves was Lewis Hall. So despite us losing 3 goals in the game and Lewis Hall being a defender, he contributed to most of the goals, and he was probably the most comfortable defender that we had in the back 4 this weekend as well. So yeah, he's in for me.
Yeah, cool. And then moving on to midfield, so we've got Abdoulaye Doucouré for Everton, who was an absolute menace the whole first half against United. He was getting on the end of everything. He popped up with a goal. He was breaking up play. He was making his late runs into a box. It was just, when he's on it, he's just one of those sort of unplayable midfielders. He doesn't, he has those games once every 10. But he had a really good game. Alongside him, we got Bruno Fernandes, who had started as a 10, hadn't really made an impact. And then in the second half, Amorim changed things up a bit. He got Garnacho on for a bit of pace in the front line. He dropped Fernandes back to start trying to dictate play. And unlike Spurs the previous week, he was very disciplined, and he was trying to dictate the play rather than just pick the ball up wherever it was and launch a Hollywood pass. He dragged us back into the game with a brilliant free kick. And then it was another set piece that set up Ugarte's equaliser, and just every attacking move we had went through him. He combined well with Patrick Dorgu, who I think could have been another shout for Team of the Week at left back, because he had quite a good game overall as well. And I know United have only drawn 2-2 against Everton. Why is Fernandes in there? But I just think he dragged us back into the game. It was, unlike Spurs previous week, it was a proper captain's performance from him. So that's why I thought he deserved to be in there. And then at number 10, we got Marco Asensio, who took his 2 goals against Chelsea really well, I thought, especially the first one. It was a really nice finish. And he's just looked quality since he's come into the Villa side, I think. Just fit in seamlessly, and just it looks like one of those players of old where you used to get an older big name European player come in and just look like he's playing a different sport to everyone else. He's got that sort of vibe to him,
I guess the Premier League's so good now that we don't see that as much. It used to be like players coming
Yeah,
from Italy or Spain that, you know, they
yeah.
had been playing at a higher level. But I know what you mean. Yeah,
And then front three, you got Mo Salah, who's done a goal and assist again. He's doing that every game now,
he's
and
having a silly season, an absolutely
and
silly
the
season.
ridiculous
So,
thing about him is he'll get a goal and assist every game, but that will be the only two things he does all game. And but when
but
he's
I
when he's
think
doing
that's
it with that
almost
regularity, it doesn't.
yeah, he's hit that point where he doesn't need to switch on for 90
No,
minutes.
just
Sometimes in the game, he just needs to wait for that moment when somebody
yeah.
falls asleep, and that's when
But
he just
you know,
boom.
even if he's not getting the touches on the ball, just by spending the entire game on the shoulder of the fullback, he affects the game because the fullbacks are all shitting themselves that he's going to get in behind. Because all it takes is
Yep.
all it takes is one pass from Soboslai or Trent, and he's in and he scores. So he affects. You know, he can sit on a fullback shoulder all game and affect the game that way, even if he's not touching the ball. We've got Jean-Philippe Mateta for Crystal Palace up front, who scored a nice one. I think he set up Munoz's first as well. I think he had another one disallowed
Probably
at the start of
been
the game.
on the edge of Team of the Week a few times this
Yeah,
season, not quite
he's had a
got
good
in as
season.
well. So
Yeah.
there's a bit of that.
And then Marcus Rashford, who can put
And
Marcus Rashford in.
I
Yeah.
agree. I
No,
agree.
no,
It
no.
was
You
actually my
didn't.
suggestion.
Yeah, yeah. So
He did have a good game. I mean, I think
yeah,
he didn't start, but when he come on, Chelsea were winning 1-0. When Rashford come on, he did kind of change the game. He was
yeah.
a threat.
He's
He was
he has
involved in
looked
both
like
Villa's goals.
he has looked like the Rashford that I've been telling you he is for the last couple of years.
And the thing is, though, I haven't changed my opinion on him because I absolutely expected him to go in with a good like, you know, a kick up the backside almost kind of thing at Aston Villa. The question I've always had over Rashford is whether he can be bothered to work that hard and play that way consistently game after game after game.
Yeah.
A 6-month loan with Aston Villa won't necessarily tell us that story, but we'll see how the season progresses for him.
We've had this back and forth for a while. He absolutely has put the effort in previously in his career, and it basically broke him down. I think the big difference with him at Villa is that when Villa attack, they've got 6 players in the box all around him, so he's got options, he's got people he can pick out. Whereas the last couple of years at United, when we attack, he's had it launched, he's in the corner, there's nobody getting into the box, so he's got to try and take on 3 men and get a shot off himself, and you can't be effective regularly that way.
You're right. It must be depressing playing in a team that's just going in that direction, right?
Yeah.
But I think he's bought. You know, I don't actually disagree with what Amarim did in some ways because his body language has just been wrong for a long time. Maybe he needed the move. Maybe it really just was one of those things. Maybe it'll invigorate him and he comes back with a new attitude in the summer. I don't know.
I don't think he was justifying his 350 grand a week contract by any stretch, but I also don't think he was the cause of our problems.
But the one thing that fans will demand from a player, especially one that's in that kind of money, is work rate. I mean, Newcastle fans are the same. If lazy players, we don't do them. You know, if you're going to flop about and stuff like that, fans will go daft at that. They want to see you working hard. And then
I saw plenty of instances of him tracking back at United, and I do think, much as he wasn't performing for Amarim when he came in, I do think the reason Amarim went so hard on him was because of the financial picture, which we'll speak about later, and that getting him off the wages allows him to basically redistribute that throughout the squad where it's really needed. So I do think it is, as much as he hadn't been earning his keep as much, I do think he was a convenient fall guy at the same time. But I'm glad that he's gone to Villa and he's doing well, and I hope that he finds a new club in the summer where he can continue to do well, because I don't think we'll get to the point where he's playing that well for United again.
Obviously, we'll see how it goes for the rest of the year from him anyway, but I think he deserves it this week. I mean, I guess with Liverpool beating Man City to kind of go on to the point that we started talking about and where the table's going earlier on. It's now at the point where, is it 11 points? The gap at the moment, I believe, in the table between Liverpool and Arsenal. And at this
It is
point
11
in the
points. Yeah.
season, that's ridiculous. I
Yeah.
think we've already looked at various points where they've said the only team to lose this point advantage at this point of the season is Newcastle in the year that Man United dragged us back, and we just went on a losing streak and lost the league to Man United. But still bitter about that, still hurt about that. But at the same time, I just can't see.
Yeah.
It's different team, different mentality. Liverpool are our overall team. We were a high-flying team that didn't know how to defend and just felt we'll score more goals than anybody else. That's not Liverpool. So you just can't see them going on that kind of run. And therefore, I think we are calling them champions elect.
Yeah, like I said about them on City against City on Sunday, a Jurgen Klopp team, if they were that dominant against City, Jurgen Klopp would have been like, right, go get 5, go get 6, really sort of rub their faces in it for all of the stuff that they've done to us over the last few years. Whereas Slot's just like, we've won the game, we've got big games coming up, we don't need to do any more than this because they're not going to lay a glove on us. Let's just crack on. And I think that's been the key. That's been the consistent thing all season. Is that really the only game they've looked properly rattled and troubled was the Everton game at Goodison Park, and that obviously had a lot more context to it. He had a bit of a dig that Villa. He was suggesting that Villa only turned up because Liverpool were in town last week as well. I think that is a bit rubbish, to be honest. But
I don't agree
that's the
with
extent of their wobble this season.
If you're at the top of the league and you come to anybody's ground, or they come to yours, then if they beat you, then it's bigger than if they beat anybody else. But it's just whoever's that's the price you pay for being at the top. It's a big thing to them. If Newcastle get beat off Leicester, it's a big thing for Leicester fans, right? Because they're in relegation, they're not expected to win a game like that. But that's the same as a Villa beating Liverpool at the moment because they are so far ahead of everybody. So I agree with you. I think he has shown he can get rattled a little bit, but there's actually no need. At this point, it's almost like because even when get rattled about it, just focus on the cups and the Champions League at this point.
Yeah, because even when they do drop points against Everton and Villa, they're still getting draws, so they're still getting points on the board, and Arsenal are just not capitalising, and everybody else is just too far adrift now. It is only Arsenal, but because they just haven't got any forwards now, there is no chance of them ever catching them up, I don't think.
Yeah, I mean, Arsenal get beat 1-0 off West Ham. They struggled to score last week. They didn't look like scoring in a million years this weekend.
Yeah.
And, you just don't see this Arsenal team are not going to go on a look. I actually think they're going to get dragged back in the mix with everyone else.
Yeah.
In the fight for Champions League places, more likely, because they just, unless they magically get some players back fit. And I was talking to Rich about this, who's an Arsenal fan the other day there, and he doesn't think anybody that could make a difference will be back really before the end of the season. So
no, I mean, Havertz is out. Havertz is out. Jesus is out. Saka is going to come back at some point, but he can't do it all himself. He's got to link up with people.
I think they're actually in trouble in that way. But I think they'll still make top 4. But I
think they'll be fine. They're 10 points ahead of Bournemouth. With a game in hand as things stand. Obviously, Bournemouth are playing against Brighton at the minute, so that could change. I think they'll be fine.
I think they will lose more games between now and the end of the season, though, Arsenal. They will lose more games than Liverpool. I think the gap will get bigger before the end. Absolutely. I can see it being like 15, 16 points.
And like I said a couple of weeks ago, Arsenal and Liverpool don't play each other until like the third to last fixture, right in the middle of May. By that point, it could already be over. If Arsenal were playing Liverpool just after the Everton game or just after the Villa game, I think there might have been something there because they could have raised it for that and really sort of there might have been something there. But it's going to be dead by the time they play each other, which is going to be a bit of a shame.
So really, like in terms of what's to play for at the moment, it really is just the fight for Europe because the relegation is just so. I mean, Wolves won at the weekend. They're like 5 points ahead or something ahead of Ipswich and Leicester, who just can't goals, wins. Southampton every week, whoever plays Leicester, Ipswich, or Southampton, because it'll be like 1 in 10 that you do not get your money.
I mean, the thing that
if they're willing to give you any odds.
The thing that really killed the title race, the relegation battle, was Ipswich losing to Southampton the other week, because that is you look on Southampton have been absolutely atrocious. They are still potentially on course for a historically bad season, and you just think if Ipswich were going to get a win, it was going to be that one, and they didn't get it over the line.
Yeah, we said, you said at the time, I think it was that if they don't win this, they're kind of going. This is a big game for them, and you were absolutely right. It was bizarre how it worked out like that, but yeah.
And the frustrating thing for them will be is it did absolutely nothing for Southampton beyond give them half a shout of beating Derby's points total, and. For our viewers who don't know, so the low bar for a Premier League season is Derby County in 2008, where over a 38 game season they got 11 points, and there have been some.
Southampton on 9 at the moment.
Southampton on 9 with 12 games left to play.
The table currently reads 10 that I see.
That does it say they've played 27 games?
Yes.
That's because they're not behind in the game that's just kicked off.
So why do they get 10?
That's what it
is. Just automatically
so
you're going to get 1 point?
It does a live as
table, so it's saying right now it's a draw, so they would both get one.
Gotcha.
If Chelsea score a goal, that'll shift and they'll lose the point again.
Yeah.
But it's unlikely they're going to
it's
win.
It's weird to update
tonight,
something like in game. Okay. Whatever.
Yeah.
Actually, it's really good, because see, when you're watching the games and you're like, oh, look at the table. That's me. We're in this. They're down here, and by the end of it, you're looking at it going,
I can do simple math.
I wish we had stopped right there and then.
Reducing one or 2 or 3 points. I can do that in my head.
Of course, most people can do that. Most people that are educated to at least a high school level would. I would imagine even primary school level would be able to do that, Kel. But
we've got to give the graphics guys something to do, though.
No. It's the biggest sport in the world. Give it a break.
Yeah. He's muted himself. He must be saying some really choice things.
Oh, damn it. It's gone. Go carry on.
It's gone. Yep.
Yeah, so I think that Ipswich not getting past them, it's just about to save Southampton from that terrible season. Although even I can't even see where Southampton are going to get 2 draws from the rest of the season, to be honest. But
we'll see. I think they will manage it.
They're playing Chelsea tonight, so that might do
There's always some weird results at the end of the season when somebody's completely out and they need to fight for them. They've just switched off and stuff like that. And after Liverpool have their title party, who knows? I don't know.
But play them. I can't see Liverpool giving up after they've. I just don't see that in.
Well, because I think they'll still potentially be in the later rounds of the Champions League. To keep their form and level up.
Yeah,
hopefully,
but I mean, in terms of
to win
in terms of Europe,
they lost the League Cup final to us, but it's not looking good for us in that respect at the moment, shall we say? And we play Liverpool next as well, so that's the next game is tomorrow night. Newcastle are playing Liverpool at Liverpool's place, so if we get a result out of that, I will be absolutely made up. I don't think it would make any difference to the title race. It would just maybe help us psychologically before we play the League Cup final. In terms of that race for Europe, though, which is really what it's all about at the moment, Newcastle did win a bit of a 6-pointer at the weekend by beating Nottingham Forest 4-3. Forest were on 47 points, we were on 41 points, so that's now 47 plays 44. And Forest are one of the teams that have still got a few difficult games. So they've
got a really tough week. I think they've got Arsenal and City coming up. I think, which I mean, it's a tough week. It's a tough week on paper, but they're games that they can win.
I know that's the thing.
But it's one of those double headers. Yeah,
I think City will beat them, but I think they'll beat Arsenal. I don't know why. But
it's going to be interesting because depending on how all the various cup finals go, including Champions League and Europa League. You could have everyone down to about 9th getting a European place of some description.
I guess it is possible if everything goes as. Yeah, I've got a funny feeling though that a few more rounds and it's going to be by. I don't think Man United or Spurs are going to. Spurs
No,
maybe. I
so
don't think you guys will. I don't. I think Chelsea should be winning the Conference League and stuff like
yeah,
that, but I don't know if they will. But that gives them a Europa League spot
it
guaranteed,
does, yeah.
doesn't it? But that they might not
And
need that if they're
it's stuff
already in
like
top
so
four. But
it's stuff like Chelsea winning the Conference League. If Villa somehow win the Champions League and finish outside the top five, for example,
yeah, it's
If United
unlikely.
or Spurs win the Europa League, and I think United are in a really tough side of the draw.
Yeah,
It's going to be a
just don't
struggle.
see it happening.
And then it depends on who wins the domestic cups as well. But even then, I don't think there's that many Champions League clubs left in the cups. I think it is Newcastle, City, and Forest. Oh, and Bournemouth in terms of teams who could finish in the Champions League spaces who are still in the cups. Oh, and Brighton are there as well, and Villa. But so if one of them wins the cup and finishes top five, it adds another spot as well. So there's lots to play for, and realistically, even Palace in 12th, they're on 36 points as it stands with their being ahead of Villa. That is only 8 points behind City in 4th. So obviously there's lots for them to do, but
It can take a bad run or a good run to swing something and somebody to fall away.
But everyone is interested, and that middle part of the table is just getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And I think that's, as much as anything, that's why we've been seeing a lot more of the promoted teams struggling, because there are no absolute messes of a club waiting to go down. I don't think. I know Everton and Wolves have flirted with it recently, but they've still had enough.
Even then, not enough, to be dragged down that way. It'll be interesting to see if maybe Leeds, who are traditionally a big team, can really make an attempt to try and stay up next year. But
I guess Leeds are interesting because they've had absolute basket cases for owners for a lot of the time, but they've got Red Bull involved now. They don't completely own them, but they are partnered in a way. So I don't know whether that will give them a bit of competency, next season when they come up. But it is difficult. I haven't seen it. I haven't paid massive attention to the Championship, but I haven't seen anything to suggest that any of the Championship teams that are likely to go up are anything special beyond Burnley just not conceding any goals this season.
Yeah, that was the only thing I was going to say, that Burnley, rather than being this expansive team, are a team that have just built on their defence, and actually that's sensible before you go into the. If you can get up playing like that, you've actually got more chance, I think, in the Premier League, because you are going to be backs to the wall and defending. Whether you can do it against that level of opposition is another story, but
and it
about might work for them.
The extent to which they'll have to shore up if they're going to focus on not conceding first is going to make it very hard for them to get goals the other end, I think.
Yeah.
It's a lot easier to break on Championship defences than it is Premier League ones, I think, because Premier League football is just all about transition and counter-attacking. That's where everyone gets their goals from nowadays. So they are going to have something special to be able to do that, I think.
Chris, the only other thing I would say is we are consistently inconsistent. I mean, to the point where we were inconsistent between two different halves at the weekend, which I think is a first. Either we're terrible or we're really, really good. This week we were really, really good in the first half and really, really bad in the second half, which is worrying. But that's why we're not pulling away and making one of those positions our own. It's why you do fancy Liverpool in the final against Newcastle, because you just don't know which version of us.
I think the big thing is you'd finally settled on a midfield that really looked as good as any other midfield in the league, in my opinion. Joe Linton, Tonali, and Bruno. Mm-hmm. Joe Linton's been out for quite a while now, hasn't he?
3 or 4 weeks, I think, or something like that.
That's made a massive difference. Tonali obviously was only fit enough for the bench at the weekend, and as we saw last season, when Bruno's got to do it all on his own, he sort of tires himself out, doesn't he? So
yeah.
So
we'll see what happens, but hopefully he'll come. We'll get a bit of consistency together. But if we don't, we don't. It's we've got a threadbare squad. So
yeah,
what happens is what happens at this point. I'm not going to stress too much about it. If we win a cup, if we've somehow managed to beat Liverpool, I don't really care what happens the rest of the season.
Yeah, I mean, what I would say is that Isaac and Murphy are still playing well and combining well, even when the rest of the team maybe isn't quite at the same level.
Even Gordon played well in that first half as well. But
when you've got that, you've always got a chance. You could say the cup final against Liverpool, you could really grind it out like you did against Arsenal in the semi-final, and really sort of set your stall out, part of the bus, make it unpleasant, see if you can rattle them a bit. And Isaac is always going to be able to get on the end of a chance, and you never know. But
it just depends how
you're not going to beat them by outplaying them, but you can. I think there's still something in there to be able to make it a frustrating game.
Sorry. Mum just arrived there, didn't she's just going to see my daughter. Anyway, let's get on to Manchester United. Not so much the game itself, which was a 2-2 draw, but there has been a lot of press on Man United, which there will be no matter what. And I don't think there's any state your club could be in where they wouldn't get a lot of press, because it's either you're really, really good, get a lot of press, you're really, really bad, get a lot of press, or if you're in the middle, it's why are you not up there, get a lot of press. But the press this week has been a bit more of the kind of cuts. And one of the newspapers, we did not, make up this headline. One of the newspapers came to this, and I just thought it was really good, and called current part owner Sir Jim Ratcliffe the Jim Reaper, because of all the cuts that he has been employing on the lowest paid staff in Man United, like tea ladies and stewards, and now it's come down to the latest one is that there's been cuts at the canteen on what food they can have. No more like free lunches. I think the only people that are getting free lunches now are the players and stuff like that, and I think there's 200 job cuts as
so I think the 200 job cuts, I don't think they are at the real sort of minimum wage 0 hours contract sort of breadline stuff. I think they are for, we've had quite a bloated sort of back office, so like the commercial department, that sort of thing. I think they're trying to cut down the scouting team a bit more so they can rely more on data rather than people actually flying out and watching a kid play, for example, which is more in line with what other more modern run clubs are doing.
I can see that makes sense, but I mean the cuts to stuff that is minimum wage jobs have happened though.
Absolutely. The allowances for stewards. I think
understand that.
I think the financial figures came out a couple of weeks ago, and they were quite grim. The club is in a really poor shape financially for how big it is and how much money is coming in. It's raking in more money than ever before, but it's still losing money. Which is not and it's not a good thing. In terms of actual sort of staff numbers, it came out that sort of prior to Ineos coming in, the club employed 1,200 people in total. The next highest was Liverpool, who only employed about 800. And obviously they're getting a lot more bang for the buck there. So I think there were departments that were a bit bloated and needed to be run better, because we have been behind the curve on basically every measure in terms of running a football operation for 10 years at least now.
I guess
the thing that I think is disappointing
is sorry, on you go.
The thing that's disappointing is they're cutting a lot of the perks, which might seem petty, but it's part of, like, you're working for Manchester United, and fine, you might not be earning the same as any of the players, but it's still, for a lot of those people who would have grown up in the area, it's still a special thing to say. I know if I actually lived up north and I got the chance to do a job for Man United, I would clean the toilets. It would be a big deal for me. But it's all the little perks of, like, I'm part of Manchester United. This is one of the biggest football clubs in the world. It's certainly the biggest in England. This means something, and there are certain perks that come with it, and it is a bit sort of, it's a bit sort of, you know, the sort of old money people suddenly having to sell off the family home. You know, I don't know. You know, it's a bit like you know, the start of Downton Abbey, where it's the guy in this big estate house that he's inherited, and he's got used to a certain lifestyle, and then basically he's found he's not been making any money. He's going to actually have to start working for it, and the culture shock for that, and trying to modernise has sort of bent his nose out of joint. That's what we're going through right now, and it's rubbed a lot of people up the wrong way. But it's something that we've been putting off for ages, because the quality of the rest of the league and the amount of money that we had in the bank previously, and what United as a name used to mean, meant that we could paper over the cracks. But we are literally starting everything from the ground up in terms of being a modern club, in terms of the backroom, you know, the sort of boardroom structure, the way that scouting gets turned into a recruitment strategy, in terms of the way we play. We've been a sort of transition counter-attacking team than basically the last 10 years since Mourinho was in, and we're now just starting to try and teach our players that we've had how to pass and keep the ball, and they're struggling with that because they've been used to playing counter-attacking football that long. And you know, there's little things that you can see improvement, and you can see, oh, this is what we're trying to do, but it's matched with so many other mistakes that it's hard to sort of quantify that progress. And equally, every single thing that happens to the club, it's very easy for the media to pile in and go, oh, this is another Man United catastrophe. I saw one of the Athletics United writers call the performance against Everton the worst performance of the season, and it wasn't good, but it wasn't anything special compared to what I'd seen the rest of the season. It was just not doing.
I thought I'd seen worse Man United performances than that this season.
Yeah. It was the first half. The first half was not good, but you could see the plan we were trying to execute. We just weren't executing it well, and then you had the sort of defensive errors that Everton capitalised on, and it's those little things get lost in all of the other calamity, and on top of that, you know, the media just won't let a club like United make small gains. They're expecting everything to be fixed by the next game, and then get exasperated when they're not. They'll say, oh, United are so bad in this, and this. And then when none of those things are better the next game, they act surprised. And it just, we are,
like
I've been saying this for years. I've been saying this for years.
Anyway.
We need to suck for a while. You know, we need to suck for a while until we learn how to be a modern club, because we haven't been for ages.
I mean, yeah, I get what you're saying. Again, it's the media will talk about you no matter what state you're in. So the state you're in is the state you're in. The financial issues are real. You know, the club are underperforming. You know, the jury's still out on Ruben Amorim, I think it's fair to say. In terms, because you can only judge a manager by the results and what's happening on the pitch, and it's not going well. I mean, the reason you're not in a relegation fight's actually the points that you earned under Eric Ten Hag rather than what you've done since. So they've got to talk about something to do with you. Don't get me wrong, I'd love it if they just stopped talking about you and ignored you for like a while, but it won't happen.
I mean,
so you just can't slip through the cracks. Like
I don't really get the criticism for Amorim at the moment. Obviously, results haven't been good. He's basically on a point per game in the league since he started, which is not good. But results are not the important thing. They haven't been since the start of the season, even when we started it under Ten Hag. It has been about coming up with what the sort of the football boffins call a game model. It is, how is the game supposed to look? How is the team supposed to set up? How are we going to fashion chances? It's always been about building that up for me, and the results don't really matter. Because at the moment because what did for Ten Hag was he got scared in his first two games of his tenure. He got beat. He got smashed by Brighton. He got smashed by Brentford. He was trying to play similar to Amorim, a sort of expansive possession-based game. Got absolutely battered. shat himself and turned into a really reactive manager where the only thing that mattered was the next result. And you can't develop players that way. You can't develop a style that way, and you can't develop consistency that way without knowing how you're going to play one week to the next. So basically what Amarim's been doing is saying there's nothing to really achieve this season, but equally there's nothing to really lose this season. What's more important is getting players used to the system and seeing what players can actually do the system. Should they not be used to
it by now, though? I mean, I know that the first few weeks it was we've only had 1-2 training sessions, but that's not.
I think they are used.
They have had times where it's one game a week for a while, and they should be getting better by now. And I don't think
I think they are used to it. Again, this goes with the sort of overall noise with United, in that anything bad is amplified so much. I think they are used to the system. I think there've been parts of every game for the last few weeks where we've had damaging results, where the team look like what Amarim wants. The issue is we've got basically 11 players only who can execute that plan currently. And even they can't do it for a full 90 minutes at the moment, which is the main issue. And more importantly, they can't do it from kickoff. They've got to wait until the last half an hour of the game when it gets urgent. But there is a model and there is a way of playing that has worked for us and has looked good. We just aren't seeing it enough. So a lot of people are saying he's taken the team backward. He's made players worse. He's changed the way they play. The players just have not executed for one reason or another consistently enough, and that's why we are where we are. And like we've been saying, 75% of the teams in the league are extremely good teams with, very, very good, very functional systems. It's hard when you're starting literally from scratch to compete with that.
I get what you're saying, but I also look at when other managers have come in and changed things around in quicker time. I don't know, it's almost like...
Yeah.
Maybe it is the players, though, and because we've done this now consistently for many managers, that they just don't seem to... I don't know, there's like a sleepiness about Man United, a lot of Man United players that seems to be when they do go to another club, it's like they wake up a little bit. It's like they've been in some sort of haze. Like there's, I don't know what it is.
I think
Maybe
it's a couple
the
of
pressure.
things.
Some people can't handle the pressure. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I've been saying for years under quite a few managers that United look like the worst coach team in the league, and I think that's why the results have been so stark under Amarim, because he is actually trying to do the hard work. He is trying to coach them. He's saying, "This is how I want us to play." And you're going to keep doing it until you get it, or you're going to bugger off. Not, oh, okay, fine, you're not enjoying this 3 at the back, so I'll make changes for you so you're happier. No, because that hasn't worked. And it's not, and it's on and off the field. So you've got players who haven't been used to. They fall into bad habits, I would say, and a lot of the blame for them will be on that. But a lot of the blame is just the absolute chaos off the pitch and above the squad. That has really, since Ineos have come in and basically taken a look under the bonnet and let all the skeletons out, it's all come to light, and I do think it puts it into more of a context. But equally, the club off the pitch has been acting that same way and hasn't had that structure and has been going window to window and game to game. And we are at the bottom. We've got very little foundation to build on. We're currently building those foundations, and until we do that, results aren't going to improve.
Yeah, I mean, I get that.
It's just, I'm not saying I'm enjoying it. I'm not saying it's good enough. Obviously, we shouldn't have been allowed to get into this position as it is. But what I am saying is that they are constantly being judged against a standard which they haven't been at for absolutely ages. It's the performances and the style of play and the execution is not going to change between now and the end of the season. But every time that United play and they're being judged against it not changing overnight, any small improvement is washed away and the confidence goes. That's,
I guess in the media, but we'll see. Amarin's going to get till the end of the season anyway. You're going to sign some different players in the summer. which he will at least have some sort of say-so in.
Yeah.
I don't know how much, but and there'll be some probably goes the other way to make some funds available as well. And you'll probably ultimately reduce your wage bill as a result of that too.
I mean,
but it'll be interesting to see if he can do it, after that. And fair play if he can.
What should happen, and we'll, obviously the proof will be in the pudding, because obviously the transfer window last year sort of proved itself to be similar to the previous ones under the old regime. But what should happen is we should be signing younger players, we should be signing more athletic players, and we should be signing players who are coachable and improvable. What a lot of the sort of doubt about Amorim is people say, oh yeah, we need to give him next summer, and everyone's going, oh well, if you just sign a bunch of Amorim players for his 3-4-3 and then get sacked after a year, you've got the same problem. We don't need to sign specialist players for a 3-4-3. We need to sign players who've got match intelligence, game intelligence, and have got athleticism, and
young enough to learn a new style, and
those players can adapt. Those players can adapt to a system. It should be, I need players with these traits, not I need players who've only done this job their entire career. And
I think the only thing I would say against that is what you are for those kind of players, because then you're fighting against the Bournemouths, that kind of level of try to get the next young exciting, or you're competing against the Newcastles, the Forests that are like one level up from that, kind of taking from there. And it's whether players will want to buy into that kind of revolution as well.
Yeah, it is because previously we've gone, oh, we need a defensive midfielder, so let's look at the top 5 defensive midfielders in the world without looking at what sort of style they have. I mean, the biggest thing was Ten Hag's first season. He wanted Frankie de Jong, who is ostensibly a defensive midfielder. He wanted him all summer, didn't get him, got Casemiro instead, and everyone's like, well, hey, it's Casemiro, it's the best midfielder of the last 10 years. This is great. But Casemiro is a hell of a different player to Frankie de Jong. What most clubs do is their manager goes to the scouting department and recruitment department and it says, I need a player who can do this, who can do this, who can do this. And they look through their database, because every club has got a database of every player and all the stats and all whatever. And they go, right, who does this, 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 and this? Here's one. No, can't get him. Go to the next one. Can't get him. Go to the next one. Whereas United have always been about the name and about a very simplistic idea of the role. And that's why we've had loads of sort of really sort of specialist and focused and rigid players. So we'll see how it changes. But
there's a big gamble in any transfers, and I think some people just are better at getting it right, and some people are better at
I just
don't get it wrong. I think they could have been looking at some of these things and just made the wrong choices. Someone out there is going to have bad signings. I mean, the thing is, signed all these players and they just won't work out. It's just been
9 times out of 10 when we make a signing, at the time, I think, this guy absolutely makes sense. This is great. I can't wait. And 9 times out of 10, they just don't show it.
The show where naming you, but yes, here's the Anthony Revolution. You were genuinely excited about him at the time, but anyway, we probably have talked. You probably have ranted enough. So we move on to our predictions for next week. So our predictions for next set of games. We actually went 2 ahead because we kind of get a bit confused about when the fixtures are. But some of the fixtures that we have actually predicted are playing as we record this show right now. I don't know what the scores are.
Well, Palace have just gone 2-1. Palace have just gone 2-1 ahead against Aston Villa, which is excellent news for Mick because that's what he's predicted.
But it's good news for Newcastle as well.
Villa haven't looked good tonight, I've got to say. I've had it on in the background. I think Fulham were beating Wolves and Brighton were beating Bournemouth. There's a couple of interesting games, well, a few interesting games actually. So we've got Forest versus Arsenal and Spurs versus City. I think they're both tomorrow, which, Forest versus Arsenal, it's quite tight between them. It's a bit of a 6-pointer, like it was at the weekend. And Arsenal do look there for the taking against a team like Forest at the moment. Spurs versus City. Spurs have recovered a bit of form, I think, since they've had a few players come back. And City absolutely hate going to their stadium. They absolutely
could be one of those car crashes.
Even at the peak of their powers, they have a bad time at that stadium. So I think that could be an interesting one. And then obviously Liverpool versus Newcastle. Is that Thursday? Is it?
No, that's tomorrow as well. That's the.
Oh, is it tomorrow as well?
The 8 o'clock one tomorrow. You know, they always pick one that they say that's the 8 o'clock one. It starts just slightly behind all the other ones, so that they can try and get more viewers.
So I mean that can. It's historically been an exciting fixture. I think it had a couple of famous games in the 90s, but
even it's very rare that Newcastle play Liverpool and it's a boring fix. Nothing much happens. It's very rare for that to be the case. So
so those are interesting. United versus Ipswich. It's, for all of what I've just said, it is a litmus test because Ipswich are not very good.
You have to beat them.
We need to.
Actually,
I'm not saying I want us to win 5-0, but what I would like to see is the style of play that we've been finishing the last few games with. I want to see us playing that from the get-go and really get in their faces. And if mistakes creep in and if the game gets away with us, or we take a while to score, fine. But I want to see the quick passing, the interchange, the running. I want to see that from the first minute, and we'll see what happens. I think it's probably going to go similar to how a lot of previous games have gone. But I think we should have enough to get past
next week, especially if you get beat.
I mean, if word is to be believed as well, it's a bit of an audition for Rory Delap, because we're looking at a striker in the summer and he's looking like one of the cheaper options, especially if Ipswich go down. So
I don't know how cheap he'll be actually, but we'll see.
Yeah, it'll be cheaper than Gyökeres. We'll say that.
Well, then that's a fact.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's us for this week, folks. Obviously, you probably realise Dave and Mick are not here. I don't know how often either of the two of them will be here going forward for the next little while, because Dave is having a baby. Not him personally, but his wife's kind of having a baby. And Mick is trying to become the next Luke Littler, even though he's 20 years older than Luke Littler. But
and looks about 10 years younger.
He's got a new job. Mick got a new job as well, and he's having to do some work at night. So we'll get them in when we can, but Ryan and I will try to hold the fort as much as possible as we can until we get those guys back. Thanks for watching us this week. If you did like the show this week and the content, please give us a like and a subscribe, because the lights running and all that sort of stuff, and encourage us to keep making the show. Leave us any comments if there's things you don't like us talking about or you would like to see us talking more of. We're also happy to take any feedback as well. Thanks very much, folks. See you next week.
Thanks, guys.